call the meeting to order. We begin with the roll call. We'll note that all are in attendance except for President Dr. Frederick, who is ill. But she is recovering and she is texting, and so she's online. Yeah, so hello to Dr. Frederick. Our next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. We invite everyone to rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have some recognition tonight. Teresa?
Thank you, Mr. Rosenberry. This evening, we typically use this time to recognize the accomplishments of our employees and our students, but tonight we're going to deviate a little bit from that. Instead, we'd like to honor you as our school board. The contributions that you've made with your daily volunteering of your time and talents make a big difference for the 25,000 students and 4,000 employees that we have. And as you know, last week was designated by the governor as Missouri School Board Appreciation Week, and we were able to recognize you at the Tournament of Champions a few weeks ago, and I have certificates here for you from the Missouri School Board Association, so I'll give those to you later. But we thought you might especially appreciate hearing directly from some of our special guests. So we've invited our Teacher of the Year, Tabitha Utzler, and some of her students from her third grade class at Jeffries Elementary School to share their thoughts and, in their own words, their appreciation for you. So I invite them to come up. Ms. Utzler, Mackenzie Wright, John Lawson, J. Romel Tan, and Kimora Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us this evening. You see before you some third graders. It was very hard to decide who was going to come with me tonight, as I have a fabulous class, but you see before me some of the brightest ones, and I appreciate them being here with me this evening. Who works hard each day on behalf of the Springfield Public School District to provide students with a relevant, engaging, and personal learning environment? Who is committed to making continuous improvement in all areas of education? Who has come together to create a plan to provide students with the most up-to-date technology? In particular, who made it possible for each of my third grade students to receive a Chromebook this spring? Who has increased the excitement and the motivation of my students to learn as they anticipate these devices coming very soon? Only recently, one student in my class confided in me that her student didn't have much money. She was concerned because many of her friends at school had talked about the different devices they have in their homes. These students were utilizing online resources this board has approved, such as Dreambox, Alex, and Lexia. Because you see, the students are always eager to continue their learning on these online activities at school, but also at home. But this particular student, she was fearful that she might fall behind her peers because she couldn't work online at home. When she receives her Chromebook, she will be able to be confident that she has all the resources necessary for her to learn anytime and anywhere. So who makes those decisions that influence the education of students in the Springfield Public Schools? Who actively listens to stakeholders to ensure as many needs as possible are met on a daily basis? The SPS Board of Education. That is who. Your impact on the lives of students and teachers in our community is beyond calculation. I say thank you from the bottom of my heart and the hearts of every teacher in the district, for we could not do our jobs without you. Thank you. At this time, Mackenzie is going to come forward and share a word of thanks from the students. Just imagine you can see her.
On behalf of Miss Utzler's third grade, I would like to just say thank you for all your hard work and dedication that improves students' learning and success. I would also like to thank you for programs like Wings and the new Ignite program that that brings more technology to our classroom. Last, I would like to thank you for making sure we have good teachers like Miss Utzler that push us to be successful. Thank you.
And each of these students made a card for you, so you can go ahead and deliver a card to one of them. Thank you for having us this evening.
Any response from any of the board?
It's always a pleasure to have the children that we're here to serve, to be able to see them and to see how bright and how capable they are and how happy they are. It makes our job worthwhile. That's why we're here. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, thank you again so much. You say things that well, they flatter us, and sometimes we forget how important it is what we do. You remind us of that, and so thank you for that. Thank you for being our conscience tonight. Best of luck to all of you as you finish the school year. Thank you so much. Okay. I guess that takes care of our recognition portion, and we move to the approval of the agenda. Trying to get that clicked. There it comes. The recommended action is that the board approve the agenda as presented. We'll hear a motion to that effect. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Thank you. Well done. You have the names, Kathy? Thank you. Please vote.
Aye.
Okay, and the motion passes. We move on to item 2, public comments to address agenda items, and I do have 3 requests to address the Board of Education. Before I call you, I'll remind the meeting that the Board of Education welcomes comments from the audience about issues being discussed. It's recommended that the request to speak be submitted prior to the beginning of the meeting. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes for each speaker and will be timed by the president. What that really means is Mrs. Luton will be keeping time, and there will be a timer on the screen. But I reserve the right at the end of 5 minutes to, if you need to continue, I reserve the right to either dismiss you or allow you to continue. It's inappropriate to address the board about individual students or individual staff members by name in open meeting. If you have concerns about individuals, these concerns should be addressed through the appropriate administrative supervisors, either in the schools or in the district office. As I mentioned, we have 3 requests to address the Board of Education, and the first one is Kitty Lou Maxon. She is going to be addressing item 5.01, board policy.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenberry, members of the board, Dr. Jungman, members of the cabinet, for giving us an opportunity to speak this evening. It's been a long day. As part of this evening's agenda, you will be considering the approval of policy JECA, the transfer of teachers' children from out of district. When Parker first brought this to you during the combined meeting of December 8th, he told you that Springfield NEA had brought this issue up during negotiations last spring. Each year, our negotiation team prepares for bargaining, and we gather input from the bargaining unit on what issues and concerns they have that they believe should be brought to the table for discussion. In fact, each proposal that we do bring has come and originated from a member of the bargaining unit. As you know, juggling the responsibilities and joys of both a family and career can be quite a challenge. Tonight, we want to encourage your support of employees who would like to be able to enroll their children in Springfield Public Schools, even though, for a variety of reasons, they may live outside of the district boundaries. Springfield NEA believes that in adopting policy JECA, the board would be sending a strong message of support to our dedicated educators that daily search for ways to strengthen their family connections, as well as spend valuable time in their classrooms preparing engaging lessons for students. Tonight, I would like to introduce two teachers who believe that the adoption of policy JECA would positively benefit both the time and energy they devote to their students and the quality of the time they spend with their families. Janine McCormick, who teaches art at Wilson's Creek Intermediate School, and Kristen Wilson, who is a 7th grade social studies teacher at Cherokee Middle School. Let's hear their stories. Thank you.
All right, so the next speaker is, as Kitty Lou just said, Jeannie McCormick, and she is speaking on item 5.01 board policy. Ms. McCormick, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight to address all of you. I want to start out by saying that being an educator is more than a career. It's really a way of life. And when I made the decision to become an educator, I wanted to be a positive impact on the community in which I live, and someday give my own children the opportunity to be part of an educational system that would help them gain the insight and knowledge and strength they need for after they graduate. When my husband and I moved here, it's been 15 years ago, this past January, and we actually moved to the Springfield area because of its reputation, being such a family-friendly town. It's a city with a small-town feel, and being a part of the Springfield public school system is a way for me to be a part of that community and make a positive impact on the future leaders. When I leave my classroom on the daily basis, I don't quit being a teacher. I'm a teacher when I'm at the neighborhood market and I run into parents or students. If I'm at a baseball game, if I go to the movies, it doesn't matter where you go. I'm not Janine McCormick, I'm Mrs. McCormick, or sometimes I'm so-and-so's mom, or my name is gone. It's all those many hats that we wear. Now, we currently reside in Springfield, but it'll soon be changing, and it is my hopes and dreams for my own children to be able to remain part of the Springfield public school system. I think of the Springfield public school system as a big family. I think of Wilson's Creek as a big family because we're all tied together. We're all striving for the common good of the students. We do what is best for children. Springfield's reputation, or SPS's reputation for academic excellence, is because they hold such high regards for us as educators to be highly qualified, or they encourage us to have advanced degrees. I'm proud to be one of those teachers, and I'm very fearful, to be honest, to think that my children might not have that opportunity to be part of the Springfield public school system anymore. I realize there are wonderful educators that lie around us in neighboring districts. However, I'm not a part of that community. I don't see the blood, sweat, and tears that those educators put into their daily lives, what they give back to their students. And if this modification doesn't happen, you know, my children will be students of another district, and I won't have that connection with them, with their friends, with those parents. And being a teacher with the Springfield Public School System, I truly believe that SPS is always looking for ways to improve upon things. We don't remain complacent, and that's exciting. You know, the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, there's a lot of old dogs that are learning new tricks and are excited about learning those new tricks every day. And if this isn't modified, you know, I'll be coming home every day wondering about the individuals shaping and molding my children, wondering if they have that conviction, if their administration is holding them to those high regards, if their board is looking at the best interest and how to remain cutting edge. And so that is what I want you to consider. I want you to consider the efforts and heart and time that the educators give, even if they live outside that imaginary line on the map, that we give so much for our students and just want the same for our children, because all of you that have children know everything we do is for our own children. And we just hope and pray that's taken under consideration. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kristen Wilson. She also is speaking to item 5.01 board policy. Welcome.
Dust this up just a little bit here. Good evening. Thank you very much for letting me speak with you tonight about this policy. As Kitty Lou said, my name is Kristen Wilson. I'm a 7th grade social studies teacher at Cherokee Middle School. This is my 11th year teaching 7th graders, and they're my passion. I love their awkwardness and their quirkiness and their sense of humor, and they're pretty wonderful. My position at SPS is my dream job. I'm teaching the subject that I love to the kids that I love, and I feel like I'm in a place where I'm supported and encouraged to try new things, to engage my students, to increase their love of learning. It's a great place to be. It's where I hope to retire from one day. 6 years ago, I fell in love with a Missouri boy, and I relocated from Fort Worth, Texas to Springfield. Before he met me, my husband purchased a house and some land up in Fairgrove, and so that's where we've made our home. 2 years ago, my world was changed forever when my daughter Jensen Kate was born, and she'll be 2 next month. She's still not school age, obviously, so it's several years till this will apply to her. But from the month after she was born, I knew this was I'm going to get teary-eyed on you. How's that? This is going to be really, really important to me. And you guys have heard all sorts of practical and financial arguments and all those types of things in favor of this policy. But if you will, I'd like to just speak to you from my heart. This is all about time with my little girl. I'm not talking about the time of holidays and snow days and all those things that we'd have together. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm talking about that car ride every morning and every afternoon with my daughter. It's an extra hour and a half every day that we have together. I'm talking about the errands we get to run together after school. That time's priceless to me. She's just now getting to the age where she can talk to me about her day. She tells me about how she plays house with her friends at her sitters, and she makes them spaghettis, eggs, and peas. I don't know. That's her menu of choice. She thinks spaghettis, eggs, and peas are great. But I am heartbroken when I think about missing out on all of those conversations during her school years, that time being taken away from us. And so I just ask you, and really I'm begging you, not to make me choose between my dream job and time with my little girl. So, thank you.
All right, do we have any other requests to speak? Thank you to the speakers. Move on to number 3, 3.01 is an Explore update. Brett Range and Dana Webb will be coming forward. And Ben will be introducing that.
So good evening. It's my pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce this item tonight, Explore, our new summer learning initiative for 2016. With me tonight, as you mentioned, I have 2 wonderful educators, Dr. Brett Range and Mrs. Dana Webb. They're going to help kick off this presentation for us this evening. Brett's going to begin with a reminder as to why summer learning is so critical to our our students, and our families. He's going to give you a brief update of some of the great changes he helped to lead last year. And then Dana, who has just transitioned from principal at Bowerman to our first ever Director of Summer Learning and Student Experiences, is going to tell you about some exciting things that we have on tap for this year. So without further ado, Brett.
Thank you, Dr. Hackenworth, and thank you for this opportunity. But Dana and I, and there's been a group of us that have been working on this Explore rollout that we're going to see in 2016. We're all super excited to be able to share some of this information with you this evening. So the presentation that we've put together here, we've taken versions of it to other places, and there is a clip in here that I'm going to show you that talks about why is summer school important? Why is it important to have kids enrolled in summer school? And I think, and you're going to recognize the voice, it's the voice of Brian Williams from NBC, and he's going to explain in 2 minutes why summer school is important.
Let's look at two children, one from a middle-income family, the other from one of the millions of low-income American families. As the two kids head off to kindergarten, look what happens. The middle-income child starts out with a 6-month lead. The low-income child is already falling behind because of a lack of access to early reading and preschool education. During their year in kindergarten, in the same school and classroom, the two children will learn at about the same rate, so we'll move them both forward 9 months. But look what happens in that first summer between kindergarten and first grade. Our middle-income child moves ahead about a month in reading because learning of one kind or another continues over the summer. The low-income child falls back about 2 months. So when school begins again, when they go back for first grade, the gap between them has already widened. During first grade, again, they move ahead at about the same rate, another 9 months. That next summer, the activities and lifestyle of the middle-income family keep that child moving forward, but the low-income child has fewer opportunities to reinforce good habits like reading, and that child falls farther behind. Then we come to second grade, and again, our two children learn at the same rate. But the summer after second grade sets our low-income child back again, and our middle-income child moves forward again, and the gap widens again. By just the third grade, the two children are already far apart. By the end of fifth grade, the gap between the children is 2.5 to 3 years. It will keep growing through middle school. So you see, without addressing what's happening during the summer, it is impossible to ever catch up. It's impossible to close the gap. No matter how much high-quality learning goes on from September to June, every year the gap widens.
So, obviously the main idea of that, there's kind of two big pieces there. If we don't engage these kids, any kid, most of them will have summer slide. They will regress over the summer. And the big target, the piece that we're targeting here, the kids that we're targeting here are those under-resourced kids. And those under-resourced kids, as this Explore team has met, we have kept them at the center of every discussion about how do we get those kids engaged, why is it important to get those kids engaged, and when Dana steps up to talk, that will be a major focus of our work going forward of getting those kids enrolled in our Explore program. So this next slide here, this is just, and you've seen this before in a different version. Sorry. You've seen this in a different version, so this is what we did last year. So Ann White and myself worked on summer school of changing it last year. We changed it drastically last year from what it had been in 2014. And this kind of gives you kind of a bird's eye view of what we were able to accomplish. The left-hand side is the structure of some of the big rocks that we changed last year. The two that I want to draw your attention to are those bottom two. And those were critical when Dr. Jungman gave us the thumbs up to be able to do that. We provided meals at all sites last year, both breakfast and lunch. Huge win for us, huge win for our kids. And the critical piece is that bottom piece down there. We transported bus-eligible K-8 kids last year, so we'd never done that before. Springfield Public Schools had never done that in summer school, provided transportation. So just simply doing that got more kids to more of the sites that we offered. What did that do to our enrollment? So if you look at the right-hand side of that slide, I've got 3 areas highlighted. The first is we got 818 kindergartners in our door. If you remember, we had about 250 in 2014. So, I mean, we grew that by almost 600 kids. Our online area, and Nicole Lemon's work on that continues to grow. We had 922 kids enrolled in an online class. We know that's what our secondary kids want. Talk about personalized and relevant learning. That online learning to a lot of them is that. And so when you look at just the total population of kids that showed up last summer, it was about 8,500. In 2014, it was 3,500. So we grew it by, we doubled it. And we were proud of what we were able to do, but we know that there's still room to grow, and that's what we've been pushing this year. So at the end of summer school last year, we sent out a survey, and I reported on this, I think, Ann and I did after summer school ended in August. We sent out a survey to teachers, parents, and students about what worked, what didn't work. What did we do well? Where did we mess up? There was a group of our Explore team that did some focus groups with kids that were enrolled in summer school last year this fall. So what I've done here is just kind of break down some big things that they've told us. Number one, kids wanted variety. They wanted more courses, different types of classes, more engaging courses. 2, they wanted more technology. And we're pushing more and more of that into the system now, but they wanted classes built around that technology where they were asked to do it, and they were asked to use it. Specials came up. That came up both on the teacher side and on also the student side. Students wanted special classes. They wanted classes that were similar to art, music, those types of classes in the summer. And teachers wanted those classes too because they wanted their kids to have access to those types of classes, not just the regular curriculum. And the last piece, if you remember, was professional development. Teachers wanted more training previous to summer school starting, and so going forward with Explore, we have built that into what we're planning to provide to them. So that brings us to this point in the presentation. This is really cool. So starting right now, we will no longer use the word summer school in this school district. It's called Explore because we know kids don't get excited about summer school. They get excited about looking at that really cool visual that Nicole created. So that being said, I'm going to turn it over now to Dana Webb, who's been leading the efforts to really reimagine our summer school program into something that we've never, ever done before, and a lot of school districts have never, ever done before, and we're really proud of that. Dana?
Thank you, Dr. Range, and thank you for allowing us to be here this evening, to the board and to the cabinet. It's very feels like a privilege to be a part of the Explore program, and I'd like to begin this evening with my section of the presentation to talk to you about the main goals that we have for Explore 2016 coming up. You can see that our central goal there in the blue is really that foundational piece that Dr. Range was talking about, and that is our goal to support the under-resourced students that we have in the district. We know that Explore 2016 is going to be good for all students, for all kids, but we especially know through increasing the number of sites we'll be offering, and more than doubling our instructional days, and providing some really great programming at these sites, that we will be able to offset that summer slide that happens for those under-resourced students. Another goal is the partnerships and experiences that is so rich in this initiative coming up this summer, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about that on the next slide. And lastly is that goal of just increasing enrollment. We want as many kids to be a part of this as possible. We went from 3,500 kids 2 years ago to 8,500 kids this past summer, and our goal is to move that to 12,500 students or more this coming summer. So, and we feel like that's a very achievable goal. There are lots of changes and modifications that have come about, sort of piloting that new way of doing things last year and now turning it into Explore. And these are just a few things that you see here on this slide. I think that our Explore team could talk to you all day about some of the things that we've been working on because we're so passionate about it. But I'll just highlight a few of the things here on this slide. Again, I already mentioned increasing the number of sites, more than doubling instructional days. Our Artworks expansion, Artworks has been around for a long time. That's one of those pieces that has been here in the Springfield School District for many years. And we're able to expand that out to 2 sites. We're expanding it to full days for 4 weeks. And what has formerly been a fee-based program is now a free program to all Artworks participants this summer. We're very pleased to be able to do that. We heard the voice, as Dr. Range mentioned, of both our students and teachers in saying, we need some special classes integrated in this summer learning experience. And so we have been able to do that by expanding at the elementary and middle school some of those special offerings, some of which include music, PE, makerspace, and coding, which are kind of some of those things that kids and teachers find very exciting these days. For the first time ever, we will be offering the Gifted Learners Program, which will be housed at the Phelps School for the Gifted. That will be an all-day program, and that will run all 8 weeks of Explore. Those online offerings for those high school kids, they love it. They love that flexibility and that choice. And we're offering that now from 8 classes last summer to 16 online courses this summer, further expanding that flexibility. And perhaps that most important piece I see on this slide really is that emphasis on the community partnerships and the student experiences. We have, through a lot of hard work and a lot of teamwork, gone out and built those community partnerships and those relationships with businesses and individuals, and we are able to provide through that a rich and robust experience for kids to be able to go out into our community and to have community members come into them, be that technologically through things like FaceTime or Skyping or face-to-face meetings when they come into the school to talk to kids about their work. And those are things that I believe that and our team feels very passionately about. Again, with those under-resourced learners, we know that we have to tether those experiences to something that they can hang on to. So we're building that curriculum up. We're sending them out into our community multiple times throughout the summer, having people come in to talk to them, and then wrapping back around with that great programming so that it anchors that experience, so that it's not something they just remember for one summer, but it's something they remember for years to come. Some things to watch for are, each of you have a pocket guide that there beside you, and that came out just this past week. And I'd like to let you know that's just an informational piece. It looks a lot like a map because we're exploring this summer, so we wanted to make it look map-like. And that was a team effort, but I wanted to highlight that Teresa Bledsoe and her team really pulled all of that together. I want to thank Teresa for that. It's a fantastic piece that we can put front and center. We've sent that home with all kids already, and they're at all sites. We have a website that really supports that look, and I'll show you a little sneak peek of that website here in just a second. Again, whatever they can't find in that brochure, we had to limit the amount of information that we put on that. They are able to find at our website, and we can keep that website up with real-time questions. So if we don't have something on there that we're fielding a lot of questions about, we can add it right then. Every site in Springfield schools will have a registration kiosk. You can see that image there. That every site will have that in a high-traffic area in their entrance, and that will also be supported and maintained by a site liaison, an Explore site liaison, who will be a support person. They will work directly with our Explore team. They'll be a support person for their principal, for the staff, and for students, answering any questions they might have about Explore and how they can register. And then lastly, registration opens February 8th. That's coming up on Monday. We're very excited about it, and there's a lot of anticipation swirling about with registration, and we can't wait to see what our numbers are into that first week. This is an image of when you go to our district website and you click on Explore. This is where you go, and you will see that Explore really delves into the courses, the services, and how you register, what the registration process is. So our kids can get on there, our parents, and find out more information. And like I said, the word is out about Explore, and there's a lot of excitement and anticipation about it. And I'd like to show you it's about a 1.5-minute video that shows you just a little bit about what our students, our teachers, and our parents are thinking about Explore and what it can and perhaps what it will be.
Learning is supposed to be fun, and school is supposed to be fun.
To explore is to try new things and to do something or go somewhere that you've never gone before.
To explore would be to discover or find out more about something that you want to know more about.
Explore means to move around, or it could mean do experiments and all that stuff.
It gives the kids an opportunity to try things they can't try in the regular classroom. And that's what I think the Explore program is trying to provide.
If you can explore, you can expand your horizons.
I think anytime you have a chance to explore just your community, I mean, it's so much bigger than that classroom.
There's a whole outside world out there.
There's quite a variety of classes and some really different opportunities. I think that's the exciting thing about it. And gives the kids a chance to get their hands dirty, so to say, building things and practicing.
Because if you can keep your brain going during the summer, you can remember things for next year. And when that next year comes up, you know what you're doing.
Seeing them come home with those smiles on their faces and talking all about their day, you know, it's an extension to the school year. They still get to see their friends, you know, that's important to them.
You know, that's what school is about sometimes, is having a good time and enjoying the people that you're with and learning at the same time.
So again, a lot of work went into that video, and we're very pleased. We have a fantastic team working on this, and I just wanted the board to know that. So that is the conclusion of our presentation this evening, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about Explore 2016.
Thank you, Dana. Any questions for Brett or Dana or Ben from the board?
Comments work or just questions?
Comments are good.
This is really, I guess, really exciting for a couple reasons. One is I really think, as we talk about year-round schools, it's a great thing, but what I like about this better is you're doing the same thing with incredible excitement in the summertime that sort of accomplishes that, but it's also volunteered. Kids are excited to be there, and they want to be there, and I think your numbers will show that. I mean, you got half the kids maybe this year. It's going to be one of those situations where you can't afford not to be there. That's right. From kids, I mean, from the standpoint of the kids. The kids are going, Mom, I want to be in summer school. No, I want to be there.
Call it Explore, Jerry.
Explore.
Well, I know it takes a while.
We're doing it at my house first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll put $1 in every time I say summer school, and we'll fund summer school.
We'll pay for it.
Yeah, it'll pay for it. Yeah, well. But I just think the whole concept of this accomplishes the task that we've thought about of year-round schools at a whole different level and a whole different excitement level, that kids are wanting to be there, not forced to be there because we've changed the schedule. They're there because they want to be, they want to learn, and they want to be involved. And I don't know, I just think the whole Explore thing is that I think you're just tip of the iceberg, personally. I think it's going to, if you're successful this summer, as I think you will be, I think you better watch out. I think it's going to be out of control, and I don't mean that negatively. I just think it's a great opportunity to do that, because I think you will do that.
My concern.
Go ahead, Andy, then Jean.
That there's some families that don't encourage their children. Are you being proactive within the school itself to reach out to those families that you know are traditionally the ones that encourage?
Yes, and as we mentioned, the site liaisons, that's a new thing for us this year. So those those individuals will be working to really promote and market this out to those students, just as you said, who wouldn't maybe typically do that. Also, by expanding those sites right into those neighborhoods that may not even be busing schools. When you open those schools up in areas where kids are walking and riding bikes to school, you know, it's a gimme. They're going to be there. They will be there. So that site liaison is going to be a very key person at each one of our sites. And I might go ahead and tag on to something that Mr. Lee mentioned. My job is to ensure that what we have going this summer is we're piloting and we're incubating some ideas, so then we can inject that back into the school year as well. So when we take these ideas, we don't want this excitement just to be relegated to explore during our summer months. We want that to be something that they know, hey, I had a lot of fun during the summer here, and now I'm seeing that very similar thing injected back into the school year. So again, that's my job to make that happen, and we want to make sure that it does happen.
What day does it begin and when does it end?
Okay, we're going to begin May 26th, and we'll run it through June 24th. That's the first session. And then we'll have a weekend. We'll pick back up June 27th and run it through July 29th.
The reason it catches my attention in the conversation with the topic of year-round school, you're almost there. And if you're shooting for a target of 12,000 students for this year, that's half of your students. So for the community to see something that looks like this and understands it's being compressed into those 44 days on the road, but there's also potential over time as those kind of methods are integrated into the rest of the school year. Year-round school really is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something to be feared, questioned, or
Right.
in fact, it has potential. Its value is so high, and you're almost there. You just have to get people understanding what it is, and then great first step.
Yeah,
Or
thank
it's
you.
not first step, great 20th step.
So I have this weird thought that I just have to share with you in front of everyone. When you said we're going to market it different, I know, that's scary for everyone. I think, Dana, I think you and I will be okay. When you were talking about marketing it, I had this vision, because I'm a parent, right? And I have hated it for years. They send my kid home with that slapped on Domino's sticker. What if we put those stickers and had Explore instead? So the parents could at least receive a message that we're, excited about. So it's just an idea, because those kids love those stickers. They do not come out in the wash, but we won't.
Right. If you ever dry a piece of clothing with one of those on there, you're sunk.
So it seems like that message has been frustrating to me as a parent, but we could maybe use it in a different way for the Explore option.
Absolutely. And you know, that Explore Site Liaison, those are folks that will be willing to hear, because every school has its different culture and climate. And so if you take that back to your Explore Liaison at your site, those are ideas that can be used differently throughout each site. That this would really work here. It may be something else at another site, but that would really work at this site. So that's great input for those individuals as well. Thank you.
All right, anything else? We're gonna have to learn how to pronounce that, because it's got an exclamation mark at the end, so it's gotta be explore.
Explore.
We gotta come up with a
That's
different,
it.
rather than explore. But thank you so much for your presentation. Very exciting stuff. All right, now to more mundane but necessary business. Carol's going to be talking to us about contracts and agreements and change orders, item 4.01.
Yes,
Change order.
contracts.
All you have to do is put an exclamation
I know,
mark on it.
and it makes everything better. I like it. I have for you just a few contracts this month to consider. As a reminder, this is for first read. So we have one for a band trip for Central students, and that is funded by family payments and fundraiser monies. We also have an annual renewal fee for interactive teaching systems, and this is funded by Federal Part B money through special education. The others, well, actually, there's a high school server replacement item, And then the rest of them, I believe, are relative to Explore. So before and after wraparound services. So again, as our usual routine, if you have any questions over the next couple of weeks, if you want to send them my way, and if I don't have the answer, I will track it down for you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board, even at this moment? I think.
Okay, thank you.
We will be voting this on these items in 2 weeks at our regular board meeting. Moving on to 5.01, board policy adoptions and revisions. This is information also, and Parker will be leading the discussion.
Good evening. Tonight we have, you have several board policy adjustments and some adoptions before you. They range in topic, so what I want to do at first here is just discuss this one, which is JECA, and then I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Rosenberry, and we can go from there. So JECA, as you know, is our student admissions policy. This is a continuation of the discussion that we began at our combined meeting in December. At that meeting, we presented an initial idea to you that came from our collective bargaining process that involves the children of our employees and how they're treated as potential enrollees into the district. At that time, you provided us some feedback. We also wanted to gather some input from similarly sized and situated districts and also from the Missouri School Boards Association in the development of a potential policy. We've done that, and so we're back to you tonight with the outcome of that work. So just to recap, this is the issue that we're discussing. Should Springfield Public Schools modify its board policy to allow the children of employees to, in essence, be treated as new resident enrollees into the district? And policy JECA is an existing board policy that, in order to achieve that type of change, would need to be modified. So what you see here are some proposed modifications to that policy. Beginning with the definition of how we would determine which employees are eligible to take advantage of this benefit. Our proposal to you tonight is to edit the policy to extend the benefit to any full-time employee who is eligible to participate in the district's health plan. So we've not proposed any differentiation between different types of groups of employees. That's the only requirement, if you will, that you must be a full-time employee eligible to participate in the district's health plan. Additionally, just some caveats to make you aware of. The proposed edit does provide the ability to revoke the transfer in the event that the student that we have enrolled through this policy provision exhibits behavior that is not consistent with our discipline, attendance, or citizenship guidelines, or if the parent's employment ends with the district, then the transfer is revocable. Additionally, any transportation that needs to occur would be the responsibility of the parent and not the responsibility of the district. So that policy edit, if you saw the edit in board docs, is only one paragraph in a multiple page policy. So it's a relatively small amendment to our policy, but it, as you began to understand in the December meeting, has lots of tentacles that reach throughout the system in a variety of ways. So we need to be really clear from an administrative standpoint on how we address these types of enrollees. So I'll talk with you just for a moment about the administrative practice. Which is this slide. So just to be clear, to draw kind of a clear delineation for you, the policy, which is your role as the board to accept, reject, or modify, is attached to you for you in board docs. That is just the single paragraph that allows this benefit. The administrative practice, or how we would administer that after you provide us that guidance, is the role of administration. This is the direction that we anticipate heading, but this is not completely finalized, and when we ask you to vote at the end of February at your regular meeting, you won't be voting on this piece, you'll just be voting on the policy that is attached for your review. So from an administrative standpoint, we need to address the question of how these new enrollees will be treated for purposes of assigning their home school and for purposes of assigning the feeder pattern that they use to progress between grade levels. In order to achieve that, we believe that the best way to do that is to treat them as a new resident student to establish that home school. So just as if the family had moved into the attendance boundary of the school that they are going to be enrolling in, they will be treated as a student for purposes of this policy in the same fashion. Any school could be selected for enrollment, so I'm going to use Field as an example in this discussion. As an employee of the district, if I qualify and I want to enroll my child at Field, I'm able to make that request through this process, and then I would follow the Field feeder pattern guidelines to go to middle and high school levels. The policy does provide some caveats for purposes of overcrowding or any type of undue hardship. So if granting the request would result in some type of hardship or overcrowding, we do have the ability to deny the request. Once that homeschool is selected, in my case that's Field, in my example here, then that feeder pattern, you need to stick to that feeder pattern. However, we do, as you know, provide open enrollment transfer options for our parents and families. So if you choose to exercise that option under our open enrollment transfer practice, that would still be available to you, but that's subject to our parameters for open and closed status with regard to the capacity of each of those buildings. Also, if the new enrollee is a student who requires the provision of special education services, we may need to adjust that enrollment request in order to provide those services. Not all of our district programs are provided at all of our sites. So if the student or family is looking for a specific program, they may need to go to the building that provides that type of programming. So in short, bottom line, this is the administrative recommendation that you'll see in the policy edit. And that is to adjust policy JECA to allow non-resident children of full-time SPS employees to transfer into the district as a resident student. We believe that this provides significant traction with regard to Strategic Focus Area 2, which is all about the recruitment and retention of high-quality staff. There is a cost associated with educating every student, and some students experience higher costs, especially if they require additional services. But we believe that the additional revenue that the district would receive as a result of these new enrollees would offset that cost to the extent that cost would not be a barrier to providing these types of services and these transfers. And at the end of the day, it is an option or an opportunity for Springfield schools to serve more students. And we believe that that is another great benefit of this policy edit. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions, comments for Parker?
Well, I'm afraid I have some, and I don't know. What I'm looking for when I look through here is looking for data, because we're supposed to make data-driven decision-making. Maybe that's my problem. I should just be saying, I don't want data, I just want to feel good about the decision we make and forget about the data, but that's really not what we're supposed to do. So I was looking for data, and I think, Parker, correct me anytime I'm wrong, or John or Carol. Anytime I'm wrong here, that we really had no documentation before from HR that said we lost specific teachers because we didn't have this policy. We thought there might have been some, but we had no documentation of that. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've spoken with teachers that have said that, but we don't have a process for asking that level of detail.
We didn't know
right.
if we did lose or people didn't sign with us because of that.
That's correct.
So, no data. Then when you did your survey, you just did it with teachers, so now we've got another group that we've not surveyed, so we really don't have that yet, that other employees, but that 521 teachers had addresses outside the district, and 64% said they would take advantage of that, and we could have anywhere from 0 to 634 students come into our district based on your survey, which 64%, if my math is correct, and I checked it, I think that's about 333 teachers would say at some point, just like one of our teachers that has a 2-year, at some point I'd like to take advantage of that, either right now or later. So we don't know how many that is, but I guess that's my first point. We have 4,000 employees, 300 could take advantage of the benefit with teachers. I don't know how many of the others. So this is a benefit we're going to extend to 20% of our 25%, I think, live outside the district. So we're going to give a benefit to 25% that we don't give to 75%. They're going to have an option to, is that right? 25% of the people who live outside the district will have an option to have this benefit, but the other 75% that live in the district don't have that option.
They don't have that option because they're not eligible to take advantage of it. I mean, if you live within the district already, it's a moot point.
Benefit applies, but it's just their location that.
Right.
Benefits that we usually offer, we offer to all
I
employees.
disagree. For example, not all of them take advantage of the health care
Yeah,
that we
they do.
offer the same way. No, they don't. They don't have to. It's a choice. It's an option.
But they get the health care.
They don't have to take advantage of it. You can list several things like that. You have a choice.
But we pay for their health care. We give them health care if they're full-time
Well,
employees.
In this case, he's
They can
mentioned-
decline it, in which case you wouldn't pay for it, but that's, yeah, if they declined it, you wouldn't pay for it. They can decline it. I have no idea. It's not really relevant to this discussion, so I wasn't prepared to discuss healthcare. Yeah.
I was trying to give an example of
Yeah,
another.
I understand. And a quote is an increase in state aid would cover the costs provide an education for these students. And that's where it gets real fuzzy to me, because previous boards, we've had an increase in students, and the administration has come to us and said, we've got 250 new students, we need 10 more positions to take care of those students. How is this going to be different when, or were we duped the other time and we really didn't need the money and an increase in state formula would have paid for it? Or is this different? Because this is going to be an increase in students, and now we're saying an increase in state aid would take care of that. So is it, or?
I would say, I'll use your example, okay, so let's say 250 kids is 10 teachers, right? Okay. These kids will come with a formula distribution because growth and enrollment, different formulas did different things historically. Growth and enrollment, we get full new ADA. So that'll be the state adequacy target, which will be 6,100 plus the Prop C money, which is 900. So for each new enrollee, we basically get $7,000 new dollars. Okay, so if you multiplied that by your 250, okay, you'd come up with what, $1.75 million. Okay, and if we assume the cost of our teachers is on average $60,000 per, and we said 10 teachers, that's $600,000 cost for new staff. So the 1.75 that we would be receiving from the state and the 600,000 that we would be spending on the 10 new teachers on an average 1.1 for every 25, which is a pretty decent ratio if you think about our system, would purely cover the new costs, because there's a lot of underlying controlled costs that aren't going up, right? A new custodian, a new administrator, and I mean, at an incremental gain of, 1 or 100 or 200 kids, we believe the benefit far outweighs the gain or the expense financially, because you got all of those baseline costs that are already covered. If we saw this as a 4,000 student entrance, then you're going to say we're going to need more buildings, we're going to need more administrators, we're going to need more of these things. That cost would still go up, but that would come with $7,000 new dollars per. And percentage-wise, we don't feel like there's any way that that's a risk for us financially.
My only thought would be, I think we need to be careful with this one, when you market it and say, we're not gonna increase teachers because the kids coming in. If you're gonna get
We may have
600
to,
kids, you've got to increase teachers, period. So, I'm not saying that's not a beneficial thing, I'm not saying that at all, that's not my point's not saying, just don't market it that we're not gonna do them if it means we have to increase teachers, because we will have to increase teachers.
Yeah, I think subject.
Period. I just think you need to be careful how you
The
posture
revenue will
yeah.
offset that.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, not adding staff, not
Right.
doing that.
So that,
I know he's still up.
that gives you that example how we believe the money would play out in that we would not be financially exposed in any way to reduce per pupil expenditure for our current in order to bring these students on, based on the new revenue that this generates, because that's the way the formula works.
So previously, we didn't have to allocate money, all of that would have been covered also. Because if we have an increase, however students come and they're new students, they're still new students, whether they're living someplace else.
Right.
Living
A local student would come with the
Yeah,
same, right?
right.
So it would come with the same new $7,000. Yep.
Into believing we needed to bring that money out of general funds when we really didn't need to.
Yeah, state revenue should have
covered the majority of staff increases, to be honest, when new enrollment came.
Based on the numbers.
As long as there wasn't state drops in A. I mean, there's lots of other factors, right?
That may have happened during some of those times.
So I'm not going to speak to what
Yeah,
they said.
no, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand there were some other things that happened during that recession time
Right.
too. Would now our policy encourage, because do we still need people to live in Springfield and pay their taxes? Since it covers about 60-some% of our.
For sure.
Yeah. See, I'm concerned a new policy would say, now we say we've got a great school system, everybody said this is a great school system. You need to live in the district to participate in a great school system. Now you don't have to, so would that encourage people to live someplace else and still take advantage of it? Would it erode a base of money that I think we still need? Because we can pay for everything with the formula. When I looked at my property tax, I'd have a lot more money in my pocket, which I don't mind paying, but that just to me is, now we encourage people to live here. The new policy would say we don't really care, and I think we like to have that money stay the same or increase every year. I mean, we like that amount of assessment that's there. And I think then we're saying something else with the new.
Yeah, the only people that would apply to obviously would be employee base, right? Employee base, right? So everybody else would still require to be a resident, right?
Well, I mean, I really do see the benefit to the people who live outside the district and who would bring their kids in. I mean, I see the riding with them. I see the fact that I really believe there are a lot of good school districts, but I don't believe there's anybody better. So I understand why they would want their children to come here. Forget about riding with them. I would want them here based on the people and the programs that we have, but the other's a huge advantage also. The other fuzzy part, and I'm gonna have to get with Carol, because all that money is still, and I think I kind of understand the formula, but it's still fuzzy to me how that actually will cover all the costs. And the other part, and I can talk with Kitty Lou and NEA, but when we've had previous negotiations, the teacher groups have always focused on what's best for the whole teacher group. And that's kind of what we have looked at. In fact, with the stipends, that wasn't one of their priorities, and it affected probably 3 times as many people as this policy does. So I'm just interested on why this is the thing based on 20% of the people we want to focus on rather than the whole group, the group as a whole, to make this better. So I guess I think I need to talk to some other people to make sure I've got, because I still think I'm supposed to make a database decision.
And the only thing to your last point, I would say, while we typically do target the entire population, that we feel there's no financial exposure to benefit this smaller piece of the population that will benefit our students by allowing us to retain high-quality people long-term. So not making them make the decision of whether or not I stay in SPS or not. And we feel like the teachers union as well as us both believe that it's a benefit that could help that population be here long-term. So.
And we have data. We have survey information. We have the facts on the cost. So there is some data. It's not like we don't have any data.
I've kind of quoted that data, I think, that we got from his.
Yeah.
I've got that.
So it's not like we don't have any data. We do have some data.
So this is being proposed as a first read.
First read, no vote required. We'll bring it back to you at the regular meeting for a vote.
Any other discussion, Jerry?
I had several questions. Some are procedural more than anything, but kind of following Bruce's thought on the payment. I mean, how much do we spend per student?
9,000. 9,000.
We get 72.
Yeah, about a $2,000 gap.
So our taxpayers are subsidizing a couple of $1,000s per student, whoever comes,
On average.
on average.
If it
I'm
was
not
a-
gonna quote you on exact
If it were
numbers.
perfect, if the economies of scale were perfect,
I
yeah.
understand, I understand.
Building it from scratch.
That's the margin.
Yeah.
That's the margin. Okay. And I think that's important for people to know that citizens of Springfield are footing part of that bill. I'm not saying that's bad, I'm not saying that's good, I'm just saying, I think that's data that is important for people to know.
So I want to just clarify your point to the extent for our audience primarily, because I don't think it's accurate to say that each new enrollee in this provision, in this policy provision, would experience a $2,000 taxpayer hit. Because as we spread out the additional overhead costs associated with educating kids over 25,000 kids, this is about 2% if we talk about 500 kids at the most, which I think is more than we would ever experience. That overhead allocates much more evenly. So I don't think it's accurate to say.
I'm not gonna argue about the dollars, but
Right.
philosophically, there is a.
There is some,
subsidy.
absolutely. Yeah, there is some.
I'm not gonna go to the formula, because I wouldn't understand all the
Right.
details anyway. Procedurally on some things, who determines capacity in the school? The site, or and what I'm getting at long runs, who and when says no? That we don't have room, or I'm sorry, your request can't be granted for whatever reason. Where does that fall?
Yeah.
Administrative procedure that's built through processes
Here?
with
Okay.
input from building sites.
Okay,
So,
okay. Waiting list, you mentioned field a while ago, which a lot of times you have a waiting list for kids to get in.
Yep. Mhm.
Do those kids fit into the list from a priority standpoint, or just like anybody else, or how would that be filtered? And I'm thinking of schools like Central and like Field and Pipkin and places that may be high demand.
Right.
How do they fit into that waiting list or prioritization?
So again, these students would be treated as if they were a new resident to that attendance boundary of that building. And so we would accommodate that student as if they were a new resident. Now, again, in that attendance zone, correct. Now, again, if it resulted in an overcrowding, so using my field example, I mean, if we had 100 requests to go to field, which is an extreme example, we would have to come up with another solution. That would not happen. There's no way that physically we can accommodate that many kids. So obviously, overcrowding is a caveat that we would use if we needed to. Yep.
I understand. I
Sure.
just was thinking where.
Yep.
It's still back to who says no and at what point.
Right.
Because there'll be some upset people that get told no.
Yes.
At some point, so we just need to be prepared for that. If employees move out of the district and their kids, are those kids treated again as a new student? Are they grandfathered? If a employee lives in the district, moves to Rogersville, already has kids in the district, are those kids treated any differently? Or are they still a new resident in the attendance zone to do that? Or do you?
Well, my presumption would be, so the parent would have the opportunity to select under this policy which building they want to enroll their child in. Now, my presumption would be that they would choose to maintain continuity and keep the kid in the building that they were in which case there wouldn't be an impact. I mean, they would still remain in that building. There wouldn't be a change to the student status. Is that your question?
Well, even when the parents the employee moves out of the district?
Assuming that they
go back as a new resident into the.
We wouldn't force them out of their building.
No.
Okay.
I mean, they would already be
That's
placed in there.
Yep.
That's my question. They're already,
There,
they're gonna stay there.
Right.
Okay. That's all I got.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
Just when we talk about affecting or impacting all, the teachers that do live in the Springfield School District, and perhaps they would like their child, student, to attend field. So they make the big life change of moving from a different section of town to buy a property in that attendance. We wouldn't otherwise allow them to try to enroll their student at field.
Open a transfer.
If it was,
I mean,
right.
We all have our current transfer processes that would apply.
And I'm kind of thinking maybe that's Jerry, what you're speaking to a bit when you talk about what defines capacity, and as a teacher who lives outside the district gets to come in and try to choose their school where they want their child to start, and then what feeder pattern that they want them going on. That's not really done by current teachers and where they've chosen to live within the city or the boundaries.
When you would get a job here, or the first time, you would get your new option, right? And then based on our administrative structure, if we thought we had room in order to make that happen, we would make that happen. And then you would have the same conditions as every other person or employee, or every person that resided in the districts after that first employment, right? So it's not open ticket, right, anywhere, anytime, even if the teacher transferred and those kind of things, right? It's not open ticket. It's one shot at when the policy was in place or when you become employed, and then you're treated equitably just like everyone else in the system.
So I'll just mention that you're having some of the same conversations that we've had as an administrative team. It's a complex issue. It's a difficult issue to navigate. And on this particular challenge, one of the issues that we addressed early on was, it's easier to address the issue if you're a teacher in a school building, because it's natural to assume that the child would want to go, or you would want your child to be in that building. But then for all of our employees who are not assigned to a school, that same ease of policy administration doesn't exist because we don't have the same parameter to put in place. So it becomes much more difficult to navigate. What you see, what I presented to you tonight is the result of lots of conversations, that much of which you've duplicated tonight.
And I think the other thing, of course, is this isn't unique, right?
Right.
That happens in
Right.
every district that borders us. I know we're a unique structure because we're a bigger system with no buildings and open enrollment embedded into it. So it makes it more complex for us, but it is not unique. This is a pretty typical policy that happens in a lot. MSBA has policy around this because it's a standard policy that a lot of districts do.
Jill had a hand up, and then Annie.
Well, I first just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done looking into this. And I want to thank all of you for the comments and the questions, because it is complex, and I think it's important that we be thoughtful about it. That said, I have so many things running around in my head. I'm going to try to be articulate on this point. So at first, when this issue was brought to my attention, I looked at it exclusively from the perspective of a professional, as I've been since before I had kids and after I had kids. And it struck me as a really wise, soft benefit to give to people who are trying to balance both of those worlds. And I have had a lot of people do things for me that made it easier for me to both continue my work and parent. And I think that's something that I want to support. And that has nothing to do with data, and I still feel committed to that. But I thank you for the work you've done around this, because I think the data that we have does support that this is not terribly risky. It's really not that ingenious. It's not like no one else has thought of it. And it's something that when
I'll try not to take offense to that. I'll try not to take offense to that.
I regularly bring Parker down to size, so I've done it again. Okay. It's not like we thought of it and no one else has, but now I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
The data that I looked at that mattered the most to me did come from the teachers. Now, I am one of the people who said, could we please expand this beyond the teachers? There's people who work for us who have kids who aren't teachers, and I'm glad you did that. So all we have for data available is the teachers, because that's who we asked. But you know what? They supported it, and they didn't just support it if they had kids. They supported it across the board, and it matters to me what they think. So that's what I wanted to say about appreciating this effort.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm just saying, back to Bruce, I don't mean to pick on you, but to say we don't have data to make a decision. The other is you've investigated other school districts. We know what happens. We know how it works, and we know it's successful. And we know we're competing with districts that do that. So I don't like the quote, we don't have data. And I just want to counter that again, that we have some, may not have every single detail we need, but you've done an extensive investigation. And again, like Joe, I appreciate what you've done. I think we have enough to make a decision.
Anything else? Well, it's been a terrific discussion among the board, and civil as always, even though we may not all be at the same place right now. And that's great too. So we move on to the other items that are before us in this same agenda item.
Remaining policies, these are kind of cleanup and leftovers. You remember we've went through this big, long process of bringing our book up to date with MSBA's recommended policies. Excuse me, adjusting for the local flavor of how we want those adjusted. During that process, we had some come through for revisions that we were ready to bring up also, but we wanted to get that process done. We'll have a chunk this month, and we'll have a second chunk, significantly smaller next month. And we are almost through complete revision and updating of our policy book. Knowing that, MSBA will likely have a update in the spring, right? Because they have 2 updates a year. So don't think it's over, but this is a big chunk that we'll try to kick off. If you have questions, these range from personnel to instruction to board. So any of the cabinet members, feel free to reach out per the policy and where you think it aligns. If you're not sure, call Kathy and she can give you the alignment to the recommended cabinet member, and we'll give you any information we have. So it's first read, and let us know what you need.
All right. And Annie, this will never, ever end. We will always be doing this. The people who follow us will always do this. Item 601, new business. According to the agenda, there are no new business items. And likewise, on 701, there are no unfinished business items. Are there any public comments to address non-agenda items, Kathy? Thank you. There are none of those either. So we move to 9.01, Board Goal 1, Model Continuous Growth, a strategic discussion. John?
Last few months, you've been through a lot of strategic discussions around strategic plan, feedback processes with each of the cabinet members. This month, we're kind of giving you a small reprieve, but what we are moving forward on are board goals. As you know, we discussed those last month. Number 1 goal was to model continuous growth, and some of the things that we did identify as strategies are study collectively and study individually, things that you have strengths in or things that are common to our challenges in SPS or our conversations in this community. Coming to Springfield in April is Robert Putnam, and the district is in partnership with other community agencies, and he'll be coming and speaking to educators. He'll, I think, be part of the MSU's Public Affairs Conference, keynoting that. So we wanted to get ahead of the conversation and not just press that, but think it's an important work. I know he's also partnered with MSBA, spoke at a couple regional meetings through technology. But this was a good reading that we thought he'll be speaking of, and a good conversation for the board to partake. We don't want to dig into hour-long book studies, but we want to encourage the board to study together, model that for the system, and then come back together the next 2 sessions in March and April and dedicate 10 to 15 minutes of our strategic discussion time just to reflect on what we've read in the book. So we've got the book for each of you, and we also got a little assignment sheet that gives you a little reading assignment.
It's kind of hardcore.
And come prepared. I'm going back to my English teaching days.
Oh, yeah, I'm like, I'll read your book.
Hey,
An assignment.
Just modeling. There you go. So just in case.
If you fill out an assessment.
Yes,
with
I'll
this,
have
then
questions
we're
when I
gonna
show
have
up next time.
I was waiting for someone at this table to say, is there going to be a test on these
There'll be
chapters?
an assessment.
But all we would ask, and there's a short little description in there, and it's in the board docs also. Here are the chapters. Next month, we would hope to have a brief discussion and do the same thing in April, and that will get us prepared right before Mr. Putnam is in town. So
That's the assignment?
That's your
Like
assignment
tucked
sheet.
into the front?
Tucked into the book,
Wow,
ready to
alrighty
go
then.
for you. So, nighttime reading. It is, yeah. So it's worth your time.
Is there a date on it? What is that date? Do you
It's unfortunately, it is April 8th, I do believe, which is a day that some of you won't be on the board, but you're still welcome to attend. We will engage. But it's also the weekend of National School Boards. So I think we will have some opportunity to interact with Mr. Putnam prior to leaving. Some board members, some may not, depending on traveling time. But we'll also have to, the system will be accessing him in a lot of different ways. So we'll be studying some of the same things that Cabinet and others will be studying at the same time. So.
And it's good to be able to read this, especially if you're not going to be able to.
Exactly, be present. So.
I've not read Bowling Alone either, but I've heard that it too is pretty strong.
It is.
So nothing strategic on that element, other than we'll start our continuous growth and enjoy the book, and we'll hit it again next month. It's on the paper. I
Next,
believe.
March study session.
March study session, chapters 1, 2, and 3.
Turn in your draft in the draft comes up a couple of weeks, Jill.
This is an interesting book club.
If you need
Do
remediation,
not
let me
lose
know.
this book.
I won't lose
May
it.
not be
Don't
like
lose
other
it.
book clubs. but-
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, probably
You
not.
bring your book
probably
back
not
to
like your other
class
book
with
club,
you
Jill.
next month. There you go. There you go.
And sister.
Any, oh,
Them for that.
I guess you can't lose what you never had. I was gonna say, I think I've lost control, but I never.
I am listening, sir.
Yeah, okay. All right. Anything else on modeling continuous growth? Good. Then let's move on to 10.01 and the superintendent's update.
Since we just met last month, or last week, actually, because of the weather event, you got significant reports from the cabinet at that point, and from me. I have nothing new to add.
Sweet.
I'll try not to take offense as part of it.
That was ingenious, sir. Let's move on.
He just gave us a book to read.
I know, I'm done. I'm out.
Let's bridge 10:02 and 11:01, our legislative update and board comments. I want to thank those board members who did go up to the legislative reception last week from the Springfield area delegation. Any comments? Any discussion on that?
Well-attended event. Legislators always seem to like it and fill their plates. And, it's a great time to, been talked about forever, but it's as much the interaction with the community that attends the event as it is the legislators that we've already met with, but it's a good event.
I want to thank the board for volunteering their time to do that.
And I would tell you, in addition to the event, we're part of the Metro Partnership, which is the local universities, as well as the city and the county, and the representatives from those. I was able to go, and we hit offices all day, House leadership, Senate leadership, governor's office, had great conversations in each one of those settings about the work of Springfield as a community, and education, because it's well represented. Library district's also part of that, so it was great opportunity. So
Who did you meet with in the governor's office?
we met with, his name is Chad, I do believe. He's his chief of staff. Governor was out that day, but we met with chief of staff, and then we were able to meet with both Ron Richard and Todd Richardson, the leaders of the House and Senate, with their majority leadership teams. So, and it was great conversations.
Good. On 11.02, any upcoming meetings that we need to be aware of, other than the board meeting in 2 weeks?
Thursday, you have some of those school meetings. Teachers.
Teach SPS. Parker, would you like to remind them of that?
That's at 425 downtown. It's from 5 to 7. Dr. Quirk, 5 to 7, 425 downtown. And it is an event that's geared basically just telling the great story about working in Springfield Public Schools. And we've got 140 or so new teachers already RSVP'd to be there.
Right.
It's amazing what you can get when you give away pizza and t-shirts.
So you're welcome to come, and we'll tell the story of SPS and why you ought to come join the work. So,
And there's something else earlier in the afternoon somewhere. I don't remember.
base event celebration that afternoon, 3 to 4. She's good.
We are gonna miss you,
I won't
Annie.
know until I look
Holy
at my
Toledo.
calendar. I don't know until Kathy tells me.
Outlook. All this calendar stuff.
Yeah, so we have the base event presentation a month ago.
Exist. Something in the back of your mind tells you there's something going on. We also have the MSBA Legislative Forum on the 15th. Oh, it's 16th, actually. I don't know who else
2
going
weeks
out,
out,
but
I know I'll be going up.
I'm going up.
Jerry's going up. I don't know if anybody else is, but we'll be.
I think Kathy has polled us
Yep.
on that.
All right. We'll have fun.
All right. Well, with no other announcements on the upcoming meetings, please take a moment, if you can, to do a plus delta. Show us the things that we did well tonight and things that we need to work on and make better.
No, we have a closed closed session.
No. I'm about to go to that. We have recommended action for the board in 13.01 that the board meet in executive session to discuss real estate and personnel matters as provided in section 610.021, subparagraphs 2, 3, and 13 RSMO. Annie?
Second.
Jerry just said it louder. Bruce made the hand gesture, so we'll leave it up to you. Jerry or Bruce? Seconded.
Juice.
It was Juice. Please vote when it comes up.
Trying to, but it has to come up.
That's yours, too. There we go.
And the motion's approved. We are adjourned to executive session. Thank you, members of the public and staff for attending.